The first immigrants here were obviously convicts. Contrary to popular opinion, there weren't a huge number of convict ships. The whole convict area, there was 800 or so. Government-sponsored migration, or migration sponsored by charitable societies, started in the 1830s. This offered free passage for all on board out to the colonies. During the course of the 19th century, well over half the people who came to Australia came on government schemes or charitable institutions based in the UK. In the 1840s, the journey out was 120 days. By the 1880s, it was down to under 80 days. Now, these ships were not large. If you think of the fuselage of an A320, ships were about that size. They would have hundreds of people on board. Because governments were heavily involved in migration, there were lots of regulations, and the regulations were designed to get you to Australia alive and in good health, as all rations were supplied for the whole journey. The other thing was that there was a surgeon on board for the welfare of the passengers, and he was paid a bounty for getting you there safely. And for a lot of them, they were better fed than they'd ever been in their lives. And for most of them, it was the first time that they had access to a trained medical professional. The journey, in fact, was pretty safe. They got the death rate down on board ships from all causes to pretty much the same as if you stayed at home in England. But it was a journey that would have felt dangerous. When the weather was bad during storms, they'd have huge storms and you'd just be locked in the hold, no food because you couldn't cook anything, nothing. You would be locked in this darkness with water crashing through the gaps in the deck and everything, so everybody would be wet and miserable. All their belongings would be hurled about the cabin. Really uncomfortable. Young men and young women were strictly segregated. The women were down the back of the ship, the men up the front of the ship with the married quarters in between. And there was no mixing of these single men and single women. It was pretty much forbidden. And certainly with the single men coming out, many of them would band together and head off to the goldfields. One of the things about Australian mythology is mateship and how it was born on the goldfields. I suspect it was born on board the ships coming out.